Hi, welcome to our next edition of Cheer Chat for CAM. I'm Trisha Williams. I coach at Stony Creek, and I am the The Coaches Education Director for CAM.
Beth Campbell, Notre Dame Prep, currently the Vice President of the CAM board.
Christina Swansea, Graham Blink, and I'm the Membership Director.
And Amber Stacks, I am Walled Lake Western and currently the Technology Director.
All right, well, we just actually came right from our CAM board meeting today, and there's a lot of little last-minute tidbits of information and things and things that came up today that we thought we'd share. So hopefully, if you're not able to see it right now, you can log on later and see it. But we wanted to get with you and do just a last cheer chat of the season before our tournament week starts this week to give you a bunch of updates. So we're going to start simply with the MHSAA clarifications again, just like the last time. Clarifications last came out on January 28th, and there are 4 new clarifications. The first one relates solely to middle school, and middle school season is officially over now because we're in tournament week. But then there are 4 more that apply to high schools. Number 2 is just a reminder, in order to get your choreography points for an OLE, they cannot be a show and go OLE. It has to be a held one-legged extension. It needs to be held in a stationary position. So just a reminder that a show and go Liberty will not receive choreography points for an OLE.
Do they specify how many seconds or just?
No, it just says a stationary position.
And no.
I would maybe count to 3 in my head or something. I don't know, but it does not
Tell your
specify.
player to count to 3 on your head and then cradle. That should work out well. Sorry.
Okay.
It's a wrong day.
So sorry. You can see someone's a little sassy with them sometimes. All right, number 3. Number 3 is just a reminder also that only 4 difficulty points should be awarded for skills performed at the waist level, except a hop and go. A hop and go is just loading in to a regular elevator extension. You're right. But any other flare, entrance, anything like that gets 4 difficulty points.
So we're talking a thigh stand level or gut, right? So
Right.
waist level. So
Yeah,
we're
waist
going to be an
level.
elevator.
Right, but like the hop into the elevator. If you do something else to an elevator, you just get 4 points. So we see lots of creative entrances. You get your 4 difficulty points because the book has a list, but it's not an all-inclusive list. So if you do some variety of an entrance or a flare into something besides your basic hop in and up, you should get 4 difficulty points for that. And then number 4 is regarding a rule change made in 2017 and 18 that was inadvertently left out of our new manual. And that is a double brace suspended forward or double brace back roll pyramid is allowed to cradle, sponge, or stunt, and not to the cheering surface. It should have been included in the manual, however, it was not. So just it was in the clarification.
Because you butchered that. I don't even know what you said. Start over. I'm confused. I'm trying to read it as you say it. I'm still confused. So
Okay.
I think we want you to try that one again.
So you can do in a pyramid a double brace forward or backward suspended roll to a cradle, sponge, or a stunt. And that was the changing, is that you could actually go to a stunt.
So not to the floor.
But still not to the cheering surface. You cannot backward or forward suspended roll in a double brace pyramid to the cheering surface.
Thanks for the help.
No problem. And the last one is just a clerical correction, a typo in the manual on page 77. A double brace hitch is worth 18 points, not 14. So those are the newest and latest and greatest updates from the MHSAA. You can find them on MHSAA.com. If you go to the right of the page, it's called the 2018-19 Rules Insert. It's the same link, but it keeps updating every time they make updates. And I don't think there probably will be any more, as we're already at tournament time. A good thing to look at. The next thing on our list is our updates and reminders of CAM information. We have a couple of save the dates for next year, next season. Our summit is going to be October 19th and 20th. So save the date there. Coming up, we're going to be in Lansing again at the Lansing Crown Plaza, like we have the past few years. On the 19th, that will be the rules meeting, CPR classes, one-on-ones, and then the actual summit sessions and membership meeting will be on the 20th of October. And then our scholarship invite for this coming 2019-20 season is going to be on December 13th or 14th, depending on the site, that Friday, Saturday combo right there. So it's a little save the dates information. And then other CAM information. We want to talk about our deadlines. Our deadlines are coming up for Academic All-State. February 28th is the date of postmark for all Academic All-State. If you're in this group, you are a member of CAM, please make sure you nominate your athletes for these awards and your school for these awards. All the forms are on our website. If you go to the awards section and you click on those tabs, all of the information is there, and you can get those right there. Coming out right now are the all district and all region informations. I know emails were sent out last week by Carly, our director of that. All district and all region, you have up to 1 week after your event to submit it. The earlier, the better, just so that Carly has time to get it all together. But you rank your own team. And everybody gets to rank the top 12. There's always questions, what if I don't have 12 people on my team? Then you can just leave them blank, and if the jot form doesn't let you leave them blank, you can just put in NA, NA, NA if you only have a team of 6 or 8 or something like that. That's all right, but you get to rank up to 12 kids, and the directions for who gets placed on what team based on your placement at districts, regionals, and states is all right there on the form for you. Little helpful hint is make sure you save that email somewhere. You'll get a confirmation email with your list. Save that as a PDF or something to your files for later on when you do your end of season awards. And the awards are also on the CAM website where you go in, type in your kids' names, and print them off yourself there as well.
I saw on Coaches Helping Coaches or even the CAM site the other day, a lot of discussion around how do you pick those athletes and in what order?
Mhm.
I think that might be a great thing for us to just kind of touch on really quickly in how we do that. I think it's very specific to each team and school, but even every year it's a hard thing for me, and I struggle pretty much every year trying to determine that order. Is it my best athletes? Is it the ones who are the most committed? Who and why, and what that order entails? And I think maybe you guys can each share a little bit about what you do and how you do it, because I think we all struggle with that, and it's different for our sport, where most sports just have the stats and that's who gets it, and ours is a little bit different in our season is longer than most, and all the things that we have to deal with. So how do you guys determine your order for that all district nomination?
You want to go?
Cameron?
Wow. All right. I think every year it's a little different. We, in years past, have used it as a tool to kind of reward the people who have been invested in the program for the longest amount of time. It might not necessarily be the best athlete on the team. It might be that girl that goes the extra mile at practice to help her teammates. She might not even compete regularly. She might only compete once or twice. She's more of the moral support of the team. If she's given 4 years of her life to the program, whether she's competed 3 rounds or competed 1 round, but she has a good GPA, she's attends all the fundraisers, attends all the practices, is there to support her team. Some years we go that angle, because it's not always about the best kids on the team. Not every kid is naturally talented at everything they do. So she might be an amazing stunter, but she can't tumble, or she just can't cheer. But she, when kids are missing from practice and she knows she's an alternate, she might be that kid that jumps in so practice can still go on. She might be that backup person. Sometimes we do it academically. If we have academics is the separating point. And then sometimes it's your kids that compete all 3 rounds. It really depends on the dynamic of the team. I don't really have a formula. This year, it will go to mostly upperclassmen, but in the past, there has been freshmen or sophomores who have gotten those awards based on their performance and what they bring to the team. If I have a freshman who's bringing more to a team than a senior, I'm not going to deny her the opportunity at an all-district nomination, because she's a freshman. I don't necessarily do it by grade. That's just my...
Something that I do, because we're Division I, we got to name the 12 players. I break it up. The top 10 has everything to do with the actual sport. There isn't a spreadsheet that I use that's similar to what Amanda Heathouse had put on or posted underneath the the question that I had posted on our CAM, which it basically breaks out everything, their playing time, all that kind of stuff. I think those last two positions for the kids, like Amber's talking about in regards to, you know, we call it the practice princess, you know, different things like that that really contribute to the team on a different way. And I really like doing that because I firmly believe that everyone is an important piece to the puzzle, and it really just proves that point in the end, that it takes multiple different ways, multiple different kids to play different positions and roles in order to be recognized.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I do not list someone who does not have the capability to be in all 3 rounds. So, obviously, with only it being a Division III school, having 8 kids in round 2 is very limiting. I have more kids who could be in that round. So my rule is: could you be in all 3 rounds? Do you have the skills to be in all 3 rounds? So those are the kids I pick from. I feel pretty strongly about all-state athletes being the all-state athletes, and that if we were to put together all of our all-state athletes from each team, that we would have the best cheerleaders in the state. And but I do say those last two spots, the second team, you know, the honorable mention spots for kids like that. But for the first team, I do take my most committed, best cheerleaders who are in all 3 rounds or have the capability to be in all 3 rounds. And then I do organize it by seniority years on the team. So I would definitely recognize my 5 seniors first before my 5 best juniors. I believe that, you know, they'll have their time the next year to receive those honors as long as they meet the criteria.
Real quick before Trisha goes, I guess I should have been a little more clear. We do have the option to change our athletes between district and region. So for district, when my program was in a state where we didn't know if we would make it out of the district or not, my criteria was different than when I would qualify for regionals. I would change my athletes more like Beth or Christina and say, my more qualified athletes, when we get down the list, my more qualified athletes you have to have, 3 rounds. You're putting your best team.
Yeah, I've never changed mine.
But when you're a lower level program, I feel that it has to be used as a tool for growth and to get better, and an incentive. It's not necessarily about being the best kid when you are a coach that doesn't make it past the district level. So maybe I should have just been a little more clear.
Good point.
Sure.
Valid point.
Yeah.
I guess my philosophy is pretty much the same. I think all district, all region, and all state honors in every other sport goes to their best players on the team. So that's kind of how I start. I do go whoever's in 3 rounds is first on my list, regardless of age. I have a all-state athlete from when we won in 2010 who was a sophomore that year, and then we didn't get any all-state athletes in 11 or 12, so she was all-state
that was her only
sophomore
chance.
year. That was her only chance to be all-state because of our placements. So I go by whoever is in all 3 rounds first, and then within those groups, I split it up who has committed the most time to our program. Usually that's the older kids. Have they performed in all 3 rounds in multiple years? Because they'll go higher on the list, and those kind of things. But I really do it by that performance and skills to perform. And I do 3 rounds and then the 2 rounds, and sometimes it's they're in 2 rounds, but they could be in 3, but I choose this other person to just give them a performance role. So there's a lot of those things too. Like I said, I have people that are only in 2 rounds, but could be in round 1 also. However, that's the only chance for this girl to compete. So she's in round 1. So there's those kind of things that I got to play as a coach as well.
I think the other side of that though, just again, because not everybody can do that. The other thing is I might have a best athlete on my team, but she might have quit. She might have cheered her freshman year, quit, not done her sophomore year, decided to come back as a junior. I'm not going to reward building. Those are decisions that you have to make as a coach, because you might not have kids that stick out the longevity of the program, and your kids that are going to come back, who are dedicated to your team and don't quit when things get tough, I feel should be rewarded to the same capacity, even if they're not the best cheerleader. Right. You know what I mean? There's that other angle.
Absolutely.
So I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think it just depends on what the status of your program is.
If I can just add on too, really quick, is that I think sideline season is a time that you can really reward a lot of the kids that wouldn't necessarily be rewarded in competitive season, but because it is a great way to make that distinction between being an athletic sport as opposed to being sideline support for your football team. So I think football season is the time that you can acknowledge a lot of kids for different criteria, but I firmly believe in the athletic abilities to be rewarded for competitive season.
That's probably more than anyone wanted to know, but I
Now you know.
I know there's a lot of conversation around it. I think.
It's just a different point of view. The other really important thing that's attached to that all district and all region and all state eventually nomination form that you're going to see coming out is the coach of the year. And the coach of the year, you have to be a CAM member in order to be on the ballot in your district. If you feel like there is an error, please contact Carly sooner rather than later, because votes will start coming in as soon as we send out those forms.
They already have.
They already have. So if you see something, like, tell her right away. But like the credentials that you wanna take into consideration there are 3, and the first one are commitment to the organization of CAM, commitment to coaches, education, and networking, and helping coaches in your community and in your area. And the third one is overall achievement in the sport. So I would just ask that you take all 3 of those things into consideration when you choose your coach of the year. And remember that you can't vote for yourself, so you got to find someone else in your district or your region who you think is, deserves that award when you vote.
One point of discussion today at the board meeting that we could probably mention is there were a lot of conversation around co-coaches and how they're listed on the ballot. And so just for saying it is we decided to go with how it's registered with the MHSAA. So if you're in a co-coaching situation, you need to make sure that your AD registered both of you as the head coach through the MHSAA. That's our only way of knowing basically who's the head coach is what the school actually reported to the MHSAA. So if you see a change in that this year, that's why it was really hard, because so many different people were like, oh, I'm the co-coach, and the different coach would say no. And that's the only way we can really know for sure is what your athletic director has logged with the MHSAA. So that's another thing you can get in touch with Carly about, but she's probably going to err on the side of whatever MHSAA has listed.
All right, our last little tidbit of information from the MHSAA, a little reminder. Tournaments are coming up, and then there was that fun little article about the 3 winter storms or 4 winter storms coming our way within the next 3 weeks. And we're not sure what Mother Nature has against competitive cheer in the 2019 season, but it's already been a great one. Tournaments will still happen regardless of the weather if 60% of the teams can attend. And that is not a competitive cheer rule. This is an MHSAA tournament rule that they have in place. If 60% of the teams can attend, the tournament will take place. So just keep that in mind in your conversations with your athletic director and your plans and when you choose to leave for the event and all of those kind of things in case of,
Well, our district's only an hour and a half away at 6 o'clock on Friday night. We should probably just not go to school. Just to be sure.
Let's talk about what we do on snow days when you can't get together for practice, because I think that's actually a big concern too, because a lot of people don't have the opportunity to get together to practice. So what do we do?
Especially during tournament week. Like, what are you going to do to prepare your team for
Start
tournament?
convulsing?
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I mean, I think we talked about this a lot on the website.
On the website, and coaches, helping coaches, I know
Yeah.
there's been a lot of discussion, and you just do what you can. I mean, luckily, we do live in a day and age where we have technology and you can send things, but I think you also have to be kind of smart as a coach and careful, because I did hear stories of girls doing hurdlers in their basement on the snow days, rolling their ankle, and then they couldn't compete when they actually got to go back to school. So, conditioning is great. Mental work is great. Doing your motions over and over and over again in front of a mirror or in front of a camera and setting is great. I would caution people from tumbling and jumping and things in that nature. And obviously, no, I would not have my stunt groups try to get together in someo's foyer and do their round 3 really fast. To get
Well, I
somewhere.
think it's too. A part of the mental work is mentally preparing your kids for snow days this week. If you're like, listen, we have to make sure that if we can practice on Monday, that we get the biggest bang for our buck out of that Monday practice, because we might not meet tomorrow. So just planting those seeds so that those kids understand that we still have goals, we still have to punch a clock and get the work done. But at the end of the day, we might not be able to get together all together. So really have that commitment meeting, at least that's what we call it, or we call it a senior meeting, where you guys are establishing your goals for the week and that those goals are still there, whether it's icy outside or there's snow.
And I think also mentally just explaining to your kids, like, listen, we are not alone in this. Like, yeah, we're going to go Saturday and we're going to compete with you after one practice this week.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? So is everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So like, don't pity yourselves. We're all in this exact same boat.
Mm-hmm.
And as a coach, maybe make some changes. Like I know I did. I was like, all right, well, we have a low to high to low TikTok that goes in the back, and we have 2 fulls that go on the mat. And if we can't practice but one time this week, I'm going to take it down and I'm going to just have them lay out and I'm just going to do a show and go in the back, because like take it down to something where you can even maybe alleviate their stress level a little bit and they can hit more safely with only one practice. If we have to make sure our kids are safe first and foremost too.
I think eliminating the stress is a great suggestion. That, if there's that one son that that you need the reps, or that one kid who needs to talk 550 times a week to make sure they're landing on the weekend, then you just don't do it. And it's a hard choice, but we all have learned the lesson that clean wins. We want to make sure that we're clean and safe. Clean. So, it's okay. It's okay. And I think with the snow days, I know it's hard for us as coaches when you hear about other people that get to practice all the time on snow days, even when others can't.
We are very fortunate.
And it's hard, but you know what? These are the things that build the team, the trials and the tribulations, and the pull through the next day. And, it can work out. It can work out. And I think we over dramatize it, and it makes our kids stressed too. So,
yeah, I definitely think it makes them stress. And that's why if you can save your stress for the CAM page, like vent to us, but don't vent to your kids or to your parents, because it'll get them all stressed out and create you way too many problems, issues, and drama. It's not worth it.
I cannot believe it just
The season go.
Speaking of stress.
It went to a snow apocalypse. That's where it went. That's where it went.
Yeah, we lost 2 weeks somewhere in there.
All right, so we are done with all of the updates and information pieces from MHCA and CAM reminders, but we did have a couple of just tidbits for coaches to make sure we remember to do. One big thing that got talked about today was around free description sheets. This is something that your judges can really be helpful with. I know a couple of times this year I got mine back all written up and changed up and things circled. We don't understand what this is. What do you mean by this? Called in the judges room. Those are great moments to be able to have the judges help you clarify what things are. But it's really important that we make sure our round 3 sheets are accurate every week, and especially with the snow days, having to change things. It's not okay as a coach or ethical to send something in that you're not going to perform or has been changed, and to say, well, it's just one tuck, or it's just a twist, or it's just a lib. It's one little thing that doesn't really change. Make sure it's accurate, even if it doesn't change your choreography or your 20 in difficulty or 15 in variety. Because we expect the judges to do their job, and if they're reading a round 3 description sheet that is not happening in front of them, we are making their job way more difficult, and that's not fair.
I mean, even if something small changes, and I can give you an example. We had an injury on Friday. We had to take a flyer out, put a new one in. She was still going to do the same counts of everyone, but she wasn't going to pull a couple flares. Those flares added up to 16 points. Not going to change my difficulty at all. But we arrived at the competition, and I went into the judges' room and said, "Heads up, this is going to happen." And I hand changed those couple quick things. And, that way they're in the know. And sometimes they don't notice. Right. Unfortunately, sometimes that happens, but it's our job to report to them what is really going to happen on the floor. And I think we heard some stories today from different regions around the state where this was a major concern, that there were score sheets or round 3 descriptions being turned in that were not matching what people were doing on the floor. And it was what they call it padding the score sheets. And that's on us, and we need to make sure that. And it's an easy mistake to have happen because you change things so frequently. Hey, don't do that twist, it's looking slide, just straight right out of that one, and then you forget to go back and make that one little tweak, right? I can see where it could happen. So now going into turn time is a great time to take out your round 3 description, follow it along when your team runs it one time, and make sure that it's correct. and making sure that we're doing what's right on behalf of all of our kids and everyone in the sport.
And remember that if you're competing on Friday, your score sheets need to be in on Thursday. So, look at them now and make sure that they're right today.
Yeah.
And you can always send them in, and if you have an adjustment to make, you can always take it with you. But
Yeah.
it's paper.
Take 5 copies though.
Yes.
Those tournament directors don't have time to be making copies for you.
That's right.
I should have done that. I just don't know.
All right. Also, a little side note from tournament directors: save as a PDF. Like, try to send a PDF file because that's what is going to stay the same format on
Prints out
whoever's
nicely.
computer that opens and prints out nicely. Depending on if you're a Mac versus PC, if it's a Google Doc on different, depending what year office you have, they all open differently. And it takes maybe a couple of minutes to change the margins and the settings, but a couple of minutes times 25 teams is now an hour that person has spent doing nothing but adjusting.
Go to save as and choose in the drop down menu PDF.
Mhm.
I'm
Any program.
a lot of people didn't know that. We learned today that was like
Well,
a
and
thing.
if you don't know how, reach out.
It's super.
Yeah.
Yeah. It shouldn't even take you any longer to save it that way than to save it as an Excel document or a Word document.
Exactly. All right, so that's it on the round 3 score sheets. Oh, and then to all competition hosts, there's a lot of reports coming from all around the state that coaches are not getting the master tally program sent to them after the competition. Now, as a host, you really have 2 things you can do. You can print out the master tally sheets to send home with everybody, but I feel like, at least in our area in this day and age, everything is done electronically without a lot of paper, and people are just sent the master Excel, the tally sheet, the tally program to all of the coaches' addresses, usually within the hour of the meet ending, before you even close up shop and go home. Just email, blast it out. And also, please include the Michigan Competitive Cheer at gmail.com email on that, so they have that as well. But apparently there's a lot of people that are not getting that, and this kind of leads into our big topic for the day, which is officials ratings and how to do those. If you are not sending coaches that Excel tally sheet, you're really handicapping those coaches at being able to evaluate the judges that are judging at the meet and give them accurate ratings. And we need to do that. And as a coach, if you go to a meet where they don't send that to you, don't go back to that meet. Email and request it, but if it's an invitational and they don't send it out, don't go back there. And then when no one comes to their meet, maybe they'll start doing that. But it is suggested, like MHSA, it's not necessarily a rule, but it is definitely suggested that you send that coaches have access to that and get that information. And it's really, it's the only way you can accurately rate your judges and rate your officials. So we need to make sure, again, as coaches, if we want this sport to be educated and do well, we have to do our part. And that's part of doing our part when you're hosting it. On my soapbox.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Yeah. If you have any questions as we're chatting, please feel free to post them. I don't know how long we're planning on staying on, but if
For the last thing, we just have one more topic. So if you have any questions about anything or anything you want, feel free to post underneath.
Okay, good.
All right. And the last thing is officials ratings. I know everybody probably got that email that I got last week that said you have no officials ratings submitted for this year and you have till April 1st to submit them.
not me, my AD requires it after every meet.
Oh, good. That's really good, actually.
Mine are up to date.
That's always my goal, and I never ever do it.
It's not really my goal. It's just it's a mandatory thing
Yeah.
in my school.
That is nice. I wish I need to do that. But Andrea Hall posted.
Yay, Andrea Hall!
Yay, Andrea posted a small tutorial just below where we are right now. That is how to do MHC officials rating. So it's kind of a little reminder of how to get into the website and where to go and how to log in your competition and add officials and then actually rate them. But we just wanted to talk a little bit more about not how to do it on an MHA website, but more, I guess, of what thought process you need to put into these ratings. And I think first and foremost, if we could all do it like Beth does it, that would probably be the
Don't
absolute
make me
best
look
way.
that I only do it because I have
But
to.
no,
It's fresh in your mind. It's fresh in
but
your mind.
that's really the best way if we all did that. But I know I don't do that, so I'm not going to come for a second that I do. But that would really be the most accurate, best way is to within a few days after the event. They say they don't let you rate them within the first 48 hours. But after that,
because you might be hot.
yeah, because you might be emotional upset. Not that anyone's ever been emotional upset for me ever.
And not Amber.
So, and that's a rule for MSA for all sports, not just competitive cheer. So it is, that's what they do. You have to wait 48 hours, but then you can rate them. You do have to add in, and that's another thing I think hosts should really do, is maybe on the day of the meet, add in your competition with all of the officials and the teams that were there. So
And none of mine were added in, not even the Cougar Spirit invite.
I just added it in. No, it wasn't. When I got that email, I went in and I added all of the competitions I had been to. So you're welcome for anyone who attended any competitions I went to. They're all added now. But what are these ratings used for? The biggest thing that affects us is that your average officials' ratings are used to determine our tournament panels every year. So if you have judges that you feel aren't doing a great job, then you need to rate them. Or if you feel that there are judges who are doing a phenomenal job, then you need to rate them appropriately, because they only get an average rating of the people who are actually out there rating them. So if we skip too many judges, maybe you don't do all of the judges or all of the events you were at because you've lost paperwork or score sheets, then that's going to end up affecting overall average ratings for officials. And that's going to be a concern when we look at the judges panels that get placed at districts, regionals, and states. And I know the MSA tries to use only the highest ratings for any of those panels. So what we need to do is make sure that we're all coaches are out there rating officials accurately.
Okay, so first question that just came in.
This is a hard one. I was like,
if the judges seem to be consistent at the meet, but you feel we're way off base, how do you judge that? Now, I'll just give a commentary really quick to let you know that just because you get a score you don't like doesn't mean that they're a bad official.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it's personal against your team. It doesn't mean that your opinion of an 8 is the same as their opinion of an 8. When we talk about consistency at a meet, consistency is key. You're not always going to get scores you like. I get scores I don't like all the time. We all do. But just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong. So if we want to elaborate on that really quick, like the consistency, how do you determine what consistency is? And if you don't like the score, how do you determine if it's right or wrong?
Like that's why the tally sheets are so important now.
So that
so you can
comparison.
see the consistency. That's why it's so vital.
I think, my best thing is I really have to say, like, over the past 2 to 3 years, anytime I have approached an official and asked for some clarification or some explanation, I've been given it. I can't say that in the past 5, prior to, but recently I have had, maybe I'm lucky that I'm in an area where I have wonderful officials, but they're more than willing to help me understand why things are the way they are. And, again, we don't always have to agree, but I've been provided a lot of explanation. And I think that gives me you can't argue with that. You have to understand they have a reason, and when they can give it back to you and let you know that. So I would encourage you, to gracefully approach the judges in a way of learning. Help me understand why I'm looking at a 9.5 over here and an 8.0. I think that's usually most people's concern, is that one judge has you in the 9s and the one judge has you in an 8, right? And you're like, what? That's a whole, that's 10/10 of errors that they're seeing that, you're not. So I think, oftentimes they will have their reasons. And again, you can't argue if you agree or not with their reasons, but you can find clarity. And the reality is they're judging you. So whatever their reality is now yours. It's now your reality, right? So instead of feeling argumentative or feeling attacked, what I do is just say, okay, we're going to make sure we never do that again. Whether or not I agree or not, it's going to become a focus point. This judge felt so strongly about this thing that they docked us, whatever this huge differential is, and we're going to make sure that that's not an option in the future. And I think sometimes we get a little defensive, and of course we're it's our team and it's our hard work, and we get our blinders on a bit. But the ultimate thing is, it doesn't matter what we think; it matters what they think. And I have found some judges who are more than willing to spend that time with you and work with it. So my suggestion would be to you, Shannon, is to approach them the appropriate time, at the end of the meet, and lead with, help me understand. Don't say, why'd you give me a whole point less? I got 9 over here. Can we look at video? They don't love that. Lead with help me understand for the learning opportunity. And I found that judges are more than willing when you approach them the way that that anyone would want to be approached. People get defensive when they need to be.
I was gonna say, I'll chime in really quick. Sometimes it's error.
Okay,
And I'm gonna give you an example. It's happened twice now, where a score sheet will come back and there's a score on there, and you look and it's a 2-point difference or a 1.5 point difference from the 2 other people on the panel, and you look at it and you're all confused and you're hot and you're angry, and
you send a text message.
I'm guilty. Okay, but at the end of the meet, you approach the panel and you go, "I have a question," and they say, "What's up?" And I say, I need you to explain to me why there's a 2-point difference between, these 2 officials and you. If you could give me feedback on what you saw, I would be interested so that I know what I can work on. And there have been times where officials have said, oh my goodness, like I wrote down the wrong score. Like they go back through their paperwork and realize that they looked in a wrong spot, or they just were writing quick and what they thought they wrote and what they did right were wrong. And I've actually had scores changed when an official could admit that they were at fault and made an obvious mistake.
What was my text message yesterday? Your execution score got changed. And the judge had said, Amber, I looked at the team list above me and I wrote the wrong number in. And I was like, I've never seen that.
I've actually had that happen where I got a 9-point erase mark in general impression once. And it looked like it was like a 9 and the 7 had been erased. And I asked the scorers could you just double check it? It looks like they didn't finish writing a number. And they did. They had wanted to write a 9.8, but they wrote a 9, probably got distracted and then flipped over their paper. So asking, is extremely valid, and that helps. In order to say they weren't consistent or they didn't have any basis for their scores, you have to ask them so that you know. And I think the tally program, like Christina said, is huge as well. I can't tell from my own score sheets if this judge was consistent, but I can compare how they scored me against all these other teams and how the overall came out that day. And if they are on with what the overall happened, then they're pretty consistent. I do think we as coaches get stuck in a kind of small, I don't know how to say it, but maybe a very egocentric world or a team-centric world where we think, well, I like this judge because they gave me great scores, so I'm going to give this person a 1. Mm-hmm. And then this judge gave me 9 4s or 8 9s. I'm giving them a 3 or 4. I never want to see this judge again. And if we want the best judges, we want discerning judges. Mm-hmm. So I don't care if the discerning judge is going to give me an 8 9, if we're going to give everybody else an 8 9 or an 8 7 or a 9 2
or whatever
they deserve. Sure. Mm-hmm. But I don't want a panel full of judges that just give everyone 10s, because then there is no discernment and there is no differentiation. So we definitely need to make sure we're looking at our master tally sheets and seeing that it is a judge who did differentiate between the teams and did it the way the
rule book says.
The rule book says, and the results came out.
Right.
And then if we weren't on the winning end of that, we have to kind of let our ego go a little bit and say, all right, well then we need to do something different as coaches and fix that. But when you're rating officials, it really needs to be about who's doing a great job officiating.
Whether the scores are high or low.
Right.
Well, I think we get lazy as coaches too. If you're racing for a deadline and you're trying to get your officials' ratings in, and you're like, well, I don't love their score, but I don't hate their score, but I think they did okay, I'm just going to give them a 1. You're not doing any service to the other coaches, to the kids, and even to the officials themselves. If you take the cheap route or the escape route and just give everyone a 1 because you won all the time and you had great scores, or you just don't care, you're just doing it to get it done, you're not furthering the sport.
Well, then we end up with panels at finals that aren't the best judges we have. And I think everyone can agree that we want the most educated judges on our tournament panels. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. I think Shannon said she was fine with the score because it was consistent. She just didn't know if consistency goes into ratings.
It definitely does.
Absolutely.
And something that also is really important is sometimes as coaches we can get caught up in if you compete the week before, or say on a Wednesday, and then on Saturday your score has changed huge. These are teenage girls. It's a different day. So it's not going to be this score that sticks with you the whole entire time. They still got to get out there, get the job done, and do it as clean as possible. So it might be an off day for your team.
Or you have a low panel.
Yeah, or you have
Or
people who are
consistently
more
low.
discerning
Or
in the
something that
reduction.
actually happens for officials is, and maybe this will sound bad to say, but you're at a competition with a bunch of teams that are all very close together in skill level. So the panel is a little bit more discerning, and then Saturday you go to a competition where there's a great range of it,
Mhm.
and your scores are skewed a little bit because maybe they start a little bit higher with your team than they did last week or
Mhm.
something like that. But that, as long as it's consistent throughout the teams and the placing
On
comes
that
down to
day.
the judges for that day and that meet, that's kind of what we have to do.
And always err on the side of caution. These people care about this sport. They're passionate about it. They're giving up their time not only for the training but for the competitions on those days. And they're not trying to screw anybody. They're literally sitting there and judging what
They're not getting
they're
rich
seeing.
doing this
No,
either.
no, they're not. No, they're not. So these are well-meaning people that have great intentions. And like they've all said, it's an amazing opportunity to learn more about what another set of eyes is thinking about their team, because in the long run, they're all basically giving you feedback so you can get better. And I have yet to run into a judge that isn't very open and saying, nope, you got to watch this, watch their feet, watch the shuffling, those kind of things. But ultimately, they all mean well, and they all want to do the right thing.
So I was gonna say, I think we got 2 points here. One, what is a good official? Like, let's just hit on some points for that.
Sure.
And then how do you pick between a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4?
Well, so
Mhm.
our next little point was
Mhm.
I'm going to say, actually, if you look into that box and you look around the website and you go to your officials and you read the directions, they have descriptions for what a 1, 2, 3, and 4 are. And the MHSA suggests all officials start at a 2. Okay, so they don't start at a 1. A 1 is not the
That's a really good
default
point. That is a
thing.
really good point.
All judges and this is not me making this up. I read it on the MSA website. I promise. Okay, you can look there. All judges
Life
should start
opinion,
at a
judge.
2, and then a 1 means like a wonderful judge, phenomenal judge, above average. So if you feel like this judge went above and beyond, was able to give very detailed descriptions on where they deducted, suggestions for improvement, was really nice to all and helpful to all of the coaches in the room and all of those kind of things, then bump them up to that 1. A 3 is someone who maybe missed a couple of calls. So they did their job, but maybe they missed a call. So maybe you saw 5 penalties that day and the penalty judges didn't give any. Maybe make them a 3. I mean, and that's another
5
thing.
penalties make them a 3. They're going to be a 4.
Okay, all right.
They missed 5.
I was like, no.
I mean, they missed
No.
1. I
Right.
really do feel in
There's one
penalties.
ranking point.
I think as coaches, we shoot ourselves in
That's
the
a lot.
foot because we get angry anytime we get a penalty. And you shouldn't. You should not get angry when you get a penalty.
If your girl
If
falls
you're-
out of a step on the floor, you should get a penalty.
It's very,
Yeah.
it's
It's
unfortunate.
written.
If it's
Yeah.
unsafe.
It's unfortunate, and
If you
but it
fall
just
to the
happens.
floor,
If you fall
It
to
is
the
unsafe.
floor,
Yeah.
you should get a penalty. I mean,
Amazing.
that's described and written in our manual, and that should be.
that doesn't happen though.
No, I know, I've been there, seen things, but if you see that, but don't. If safety judges give you a penalty, do not rate them low because of that. You need to cool off and think like,
Did I
we
deserve it?
deserve it?
Yeah.
Like my team this weekend, my kids maybe this one basket did a little woo thing on the back.
Oh,
And
yeah.
as soon as
Feet were above head, I saw. I was in the back.
Sister tweak.
That has only happened one time.
Ever. And the basket's coming up. So it's all right. It is.
She just gave me a disclaimer.
But that happened as soon as we left the floor. The girls were like, "Did we get a penalty on that basket?" I'm like, "I don't know." But if they would have gotten a penalty, I would not have fought it because it probably didn't look like that. I saw it from the front; it looked bad. So from the back, I could totally believe that it might have been there.
Yeah.
But don't fight penalties you deserve. Like that. How is my team going to be scared of doing that again if I fight their penalties every time? Don't save your team from their bad mistakes, especially early on. I mean, at districts, regionals, and states, like that's a horrible thing to happen. But people have lost moving on because someone loses a foot or something happens.
And the same goes the other way though.
Yeah,
If you skate by on a penalty you deserved, don't give that judge a 1
Right.
because you didn't get the penalty.
it's the same as giving a judge that just gives you 10s for no reason a 1.
Right.
Don't do
Like
that.
you can't reward someone for not doing their job. If you know you should have gotten a penalty and you didn't get it, count yourself lucky for the day, but you shouldn't be rewarding that behavior.
Because what goes around comes around. They very well could be missing something from someone else.
And you
what
give
I'm
them a high
yeah.
score, they end up on your district panel, and they miss the other 4 what, penalties and don't penalize anybody for anything, then you're mad.
And on top of it, we want to keep the kids safe. That's what the penalties are there for.
Right.
They're safety penalties, and we want to keep the kids safe. So if something's not going right, it's their job to ding you for it, and then for you to make your team safe.
So going back to our 4 count, 2 is where we start. 1, they go above and beyond and they're doing great things. So it's amazing to me, we have a huge amount of officials that have a 1 point something average. And as much as coaches are complaining about officials, that means we're not rating them right.
Right.
So we need to do a better job. And then 2 is where they start. 3 is if they miss maybe a call that you see or something.
5.
And then 4 would be what you give someone who's made an egregious error or is extremely unprofessional in their conduct. And that is supposed to be saved for special reasons. So, I mean, I've given 4s. I have to.
Me too.
So Trisha, our panel here, what do there's been hesitation because I'm wondering, can they see that I rated them this way?
Oh, good question.
Will this affect my team?
They can see what schools have rated them, and they can see their average ratings. They cannot see what Notre Dame Prep rated them. But if
do we know that as fact?
I do know that it's fact. However,
do we know that as fact?
however, what you should tell Betty is, if you're the only one rating them in December, they know what you're rating them.
Oh, so demo is the first one.
Yeah.
Good point.
So, on you. The rest of us are saying.
That's all right. I feel pretty. I can stand by what I rate my
Right.
judges. And
Well, and just like we expect judges to be able to tell us why they're judging our teams, you better have a good reason for
That's a
rating
great
officials the way
Great
you rate
point.
them. And there are, if you give a 3 or a 4, there used to be back in the day
Not anymore.
a paragraph text box where you could write. I used to write books sometimes, but now there's just simply check boxes where you just check what you think, and it's like consistency in scoring, unprofessional behavior, improper enforcement of the rules. I mean, they're just very general. I did some research before we did this. So,
I didn't even know that.
those kind of things. So you just click the boxes that might affect that.
But let's go back to consistency. It's not consistency with the other judges on the panel. It's consistent
Among
for
the
the
teams.
teams for the day. So if you have one judge who's giving you 9 5s or better, and another judge that's giving you 9 3s, and then the next judge is giving you 8 5s, again, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that they're inconsistent. It just means that they have a different viewpoint than the other 2 officials that are on the panel.
So that's when you pull out your handy tally.
So that goes back to
you
the
find
tally.
a team that you're comparable to, and you see if that judge
Correct.
is scoring, a team that has the same,
Yeah.
and you can tell. Is it just a low judge? Again, you have to say low judge doesn't equal bad judge.
No.
No.
Not at all.
No.
And also, consistency does not mean from week to week to week, because we all know, even though we're not supposed to talk about it, that if you go downriver, the scores are lower. And if you come, it's like, don't be scared, it's true, it's common knowledge. You go downriver, the scores are lower. If you, maybe I'm really going to get in trouble for this. And if you come up to Oakland, Macomb County, the scores are higher. That doesn't mean that those downriver judges are bad judges, and it doesn't mean that Oakland, Macomb County judges are better judges. It goes back to Amber said, or West Side versus East Side. What matters is consistent on that day throughout the teams, throughout the performances, and how they ended up, how the competition rankings, what do we call it, placements, end out for the day.
Yeah.
And we
That
were
is
talking
the
about that
most-
earlier. Like, this may not be the most popular thing, but like, I feel like the competitions I've attended for the past couple of years, I don't always understand round by round, category by category, but they have shaken out that the person winning should have won, and the places seem to come out in the end most of the time. So, I mean, that's the ultimate hope in which we could all have, is that the best
The
teams
best
are winning.
team wins.
Yep. And it's a hard, subjective thing, the judging, but I think we've got to try to help it rather than hurt it.
Absolutely.
Well, and you have to remember, when you're watching videos and when you're watching the videos back, even of your team, you're going to see a ton more than what they are seeing in that
We were just talking
minute
about
and
that.
20 seconds flying by. They're trying to pick up as much as possible. So if you go up to and be like, look at this person from this team. They did this, and
Just
this.
a tip.
Don't do that.
They don't want to see the replay.
They don't.
Don't
do that.
Look, I have it. They don't. They're not. No.
No.
Stop doing that. They don't care.
No.
Like we're not going to go
And
back.
also in the same
There's no
respect,
video replay and cheer.
the same respect, like the right hand, like on our Saturday competition, the right hand judge scored our walkover 0.3 lower than the center and the left hand judge. And I was standing on the left of center, and my co-coach was standing on the right of center. And I was like, I thought that walkover was beautiful, perfect. He's like, step so and so. She was late on that close again, but we have her way out on that side. So guess what? That judge caught it. These two did it.
Right.
Yeah.
So also like recognize that like
Where they're
they're
sitting.
Perspective.
what they're looking at that moment, what they see, they are seeing something for a deduction.
Yes.
And if you don't know what that is, go back and ask them. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, we know what it is. Or
They're
the
not
kids
making.
will when they
They're
come out
not
the
just
door.
coming. They're not just pulling it out of the air. They're
Yeah.
seeing something.
So another
So.
thing I think that is important just to go back on is if everybody starts at a 2, if you approach a panel and an official takes the time to sit down with you and explain, if you don't like what they have to say, that doesn't mean you give them a 3.
Right.
No.
Like, if they take the time to go through your score sheets, go through what they saw, give you the commentary, and give you the feedback, agree or disagree, it doesn't mean you make them suffer in your rankings because you don't like
Yeah.
what they have to say.
I would rate an official who had nothing to say.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know
If
that
they
might
couldn't
put
tell
me.
me anything,
That might
what-
put me
then
into
yeah.
the 3
I
category.
love the feedback. I'm like,
even if
Yeah.
you don't, I remember one time I had
You're
a
right.
safety judge give me a penalty for a back spot not looking at the elevator, and I said, her head was pointed up there the entire time, and she said, but I saw her eyes glance away.
That's
And
how
I was like, oh, well, there's no arguing that because I can't go back. Like, how do you argue that? And I'm like, okay, then. And then you walk away. But, like, she had a reason. Like,
I bet you that
whatever
girl
the
never
reason
took
is.
her eyes off of her for the rest
Nope,
of the
she
season.
didn't because I told her that. She never took her eyes off again. But, like, if they have a valid reason, they have a valid reason. And
You can't argue
you
with
can't
the
argue
same.
it.
no.
That's
I do
all.
feel that coaches are, you know, and in my younger days, I may have argued a few that I wish I could take back. But, you know, it's not our job to challenge. Now, if there's a real injustice and something is majorly wrong, it is your right to approach them gracefully and try to find some more clarification for it. But, you know, arguing penalties away and trying to intimidate or bully and make people feel uncomfortable, judges feeling uncomfortable, it's not acceptable. And we have to be sure that,
Not at all.
you know, that I know that we are our own advocates for our team, right? If I don't argue on behalf of Notre Dame, who will?
Mhm.
I get it. We're our advocates for our teams, but
But I think at the same time, you have to be smart about it. Like, if I get a penalty and I can't find it in the book to dispute it,
right,
then I have to take it at face value.
yeah,
If it's an opinion, like the back spot wasn't watching the flyer, I might wholeheartedly disagree, but that doesn't mean the official is wrong. If there's a penalty that you're given that is in the book and you know it's wrong, then it's a completely different scenario because you can go to the book and say, hey, on page 27, it says blah, 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 blah. You wrote that this is what this penalty is for.
Yeah.
I need clarification on that penalty. And maybe it's in the book jumps around. Like, there's certain things that appear, and a safety judge might be looking at page 32 and not know that on page 64 or 66, there's extra information. So know your book.
that happened this year. Remember, Amber, you were with me.
I was.
I received a penalty. I had a kid do the wrong jump in round 2. She clearly did the wrong jump. She happened to be on center. No one really missed the wrong jump. And I was given a 22-point penalty for not attempting a round 2 skill. And I took it. I accepted it. And then me kept going on it. I was like, what? And Amber said to me, Beth, it's one kid doing the wrong skill, not the whole team. The 22-point penalty is if your entire team doesn't attempt the correct skill. There's an 8-point penalty for one team member performing the wrong skill. And I thought, I got to take this to the judges because it was clear as day in
in the book.
Mhm.
And the official said, oh my gosh, you're right. Let me make that correction. And we all moved on. It was, it was, but
And also, safety judges can be very helpful too. Like when they usually give you warnings and penalties, if you go talk to them, they'll be able to say it was that back left, the red head, and the right side. You know, like they'll be able to give you more definition. So, I mean, it's okay to do that too. I just think the point of why you're going there is the most important part, and that's to get clarification,
not
from
to
the judge,
argue.
not to argue and try to get rid of penalties or get more points, because that really shouldn't happen. Yeah, it doesn't happen in any other sport, right? You can't
But
take away
a
a
judge should be rewarded if they take the time to explain to you.
Absolutely. So that's how you get your. That's how you should get
So
your
that's
1,
the short
2,
version
3,
of how you get
4
your ratings.
ratings. But it is really important for coaches to take it seriously and take some time to do it. And that's another reason why your master tally programs are important, because if you misplace your score sheets, you always have that tally program you can go back to, and they should have the judges' numbers in there, right? They're in there. The only ones you'll miss if you misplace your score sheets are the safety judges' numbers, because just panel are on your tally sheets. But it is really important to take some time to do that. If we want more consistency in our judges, we need to be more consistent as coaches in doing those ratings right.
Okay. And I think there are officials that take those ratings seriously.
Oh, they all do.
officials
so.
take
Yeah.
them seriously.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like if you give an official a 3 or a 4, they're probably going to go back and think about it. And if you give them 1s, they're going to assume there's nothing wrong, and maybe it's just because you were too lazy and you just
Well, I
gave
mean,
them
to
the
be
1.
honest, I'm not lazy about my judges' ratings. I will
Right.
tell you that for sure. But I didn't start at a 2.
You didn't read the box.
I didn't read the box, and that's a fair thing. I mean, if I felt official was good, I gave them a 1. And starting at 2, it changes the game a bit, right? Like the 1 is reserved for the exceptional judge, not just the good judge, right? And I
And that's
feel
why
like-
we're having this.
Yeah.
So that, like, now
I
at
just
that point-
learned.
Mhm.
Thanks, Trisha.
No problem.
Shocking. I learned something from Trisha.
Coaches education.
Yeah.
Wow, what a good coaches
like
that.
coaches educator we have.
All right. So that is the end of our list of things that we wanted to talk about. I have no idea how long we've been on here. I don't know what time it is.
I can't see.
55 minutes.
All right.
So it's 5:55. You know I have a thing with numbers. You don't know.
11.
11.
Yeah. So that is what we have for you today. If there's no other questions that pop up, we wish you all the best of luck at districts. And if nothing else, remember that the most important thing about this week is making memories for your kids. And that as you go into the tournaments, like this is our last guaranteed week of practice, and just have the best week and the best times, and really let the kids enjoy the week.
And it's
You enjoy the week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
enjoy the week. And
And
it's
us too.
extremely important to understand the only thing you can control is the preparation. Everything else is completely uncontrollable, and just enjoy the time, because if your kids are feeling it and are in a good vibe, they're going to put on a good show for everybody and be able to have that relaxed, calm confidence in order to perform at their peak level. So good luck.
All right. Then that is it. We'll sign off. Good luck, everybody.
Bye. Have a good night.
Look, we just got another message. Don't go off yet.
Oh,
Could Cam look into having our safety judges numbered into the master tally program?
That is definitely something we can talk to MHSA about and pass that suggestion along. Cam is not in charge of those things, but we can definitely make that little note that would be helpful to people. It's just for record keeping to have that. It's not a bad idea.
I mean, I rate all my safety officials.
I
I'm
do too.
off of the penalty sheets in my folder
Yeah.
because their numbers are on the top just like everyone else's.
Mhm.
But putting it in the master tally is definitely a great idea.
Because
Where
also
can they
there-
put that?
Well, you could
The
put it
bottom
just,
of
it could be
that.
4 and 5 and it doesn't get transferred anywhere. It could just be
Mhm.
safety on there. Because also on your master tally is where you see how many penalties were given out that day.
For sure.
So that's a really good
That's a
suggestion.
great point.
Yeah.
We will definitely suggest that, making a note right now for the MHSA.
If we have a blank for it, so we can fill it out.
And if you still need to know who your safety officials are, you can definitely reach out to your host school, and they'll be able to give you that information. Hopefully.
All right, I think that will do it. Thank you all so much, and
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good night.
all right, we're really going on this time.